We're live, boys. Episode 2 of the 1-2 Punch podcast, introducing Bran Pickle. Welcome to the show,
Hello.
Bran.
Thanks for having me, boys.
No problem, mate. Nice to see you. How you been?
Yeah, mate, good. Well, I've been a little bit ill this week, but other than that, I'm getting by, doing as I do.
Man flu.
I'm sure we're all absolutely knackered today because there was quite a big event last night. The Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight. So we'll start with that, to be fair. We'll jump straight into it. Bran is a content creator, but he is also a man of the martial arts as well. Big fight fan. And that's why we wanted Bran to be our first guest. Just a little bit before we jump into the Wilder Fury stuff, Bran, I understand, I was looking at your tweets the other day, you intend on actually going pro next year. Is that right?
So I've had 3 Muay Thai bouts in my time. First one was in, I want to say 2019. 2019, then I had 2 in, what was it, 18? 2009, no, all 3 were in 2019, actually. And obviously, I was training for a pro debut, and then coronavirus happened, so it got locked under. And then from jumping between jobs, etc., I've not found the time to train or anything like that. So it's been put on the back burner. But I've had 3 amateur fights, and I was lucky to make my pro debut. And hopefully, new job in the pipeline. With the new job will mean I'll be able to train again, and then get back into the Muay Thai scene, and hopefully make a pro debut.
Top man, are you going to be sticking to the Muay Thai, or are you going to be dabbling in a few other areas, MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, anything down the road, or just sticking to that for now?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's always tempted me, always has. I think the problem with BJJ in the UK, all of the big BJJ schools are in like your main cities.
Yeah,
and it's quite a commute to do something like that. You know what? Actually, to be honest, where I live in Liverpool, we've got loads of really, really good mixed like MMA camps, and they do Muay Thai, they do BJJ, they do everything there. So it is a possibility. But Muay Thai is my roots. It's what I started off doing. So I would want to do Muay Thai first, fulfill my Muay Thai destiny, and then maybe moving into the future. But for now, it's probably MMA only, Muay Thai only.
Muay Thai. Fair enough. No, fair enough. And in terms of boxing, I know you're already a big boxing fan. What got you into boxing as a kid? Any favourite fighters or anything like that? Is it a family thing? Your dad watches it, or?
Yeah, I've watched all of the major fights from the past few years, and again, doing Muay Thai boxing for a large proportion of like my adult years, boxing has such a deep undertone in it. You know, you do boxing only sparring, so you have to get quite good with your hands, and that's always been, as a Muay Thai fighter, that's always been my strength, is actually fighting with my hands. I've got quite razor sharp hands, and I love the big differences between like your Muay Thai and your boxing. Muay Thai is very aggressive. It's a very aggressive sport, obviously, with elbows and knees and that kind of thing. But I like the tactical awareness in boxing. I like
sweet science.
It's a massive mind game as well as an actual physical encounter. Where Muay Thai, at times, things like body proportion and stuff like that can take a massive toll on a fighter. Whereas, you know, in normal boxing, you see some absolute midgets going up against big, massive lads. Yeah. And they take into town half of the time. And that's because of the nature of the sport.
Boxing's a sweet science, isn't it? That's the difference. For Muay Thai, you've got to be... I mean, the toughest guy will win 9 times out of 10 in Muay Thai.
Yeah, well, it's an aggressive sport. That's all it is. You know, if you've got very long legs, then you're just gonna knee the other person to bits. If you got really razor sharp hands, you'll just use your hands. So it's where boxing's like your rock paper scissors style. Muay Thai is not. It's like there's 9 or 10 different avenues of the fight, and if you can just take advantage of your opponent in one of those avenues, it really is a battle of aggression more than anything.
That's it. Now, in terms of boxing, like I said earlier, we'll jump into the big fight. I'm sure we all stayed awake. We watched it early morning.
Yeah.
I was emotional watching that. I'm a big Fury fan, guys. I'd like to get your input, obviously, on those first couple rounds. That was just chaos.
Oh, no.
My heart was pumping.
I'll start with you, Bran. Like, what overall, like, Just talk me through your
Yeah.
emotions watching the fight. Are you a big Fury
I
fan? Are
was
you a Wilder fan?
Oh, I'm a huge Fury fan. Huge Fury fan. I respect Wilder. I've always thought Wilder's a bit of a fake it till you make it kind of guy. You know, he's obviously fought some quite big names, but Tyson Fury was his first ever proper fight. And when he was in those first few rounds, I understood that Tyson will have had a game plan, and you could see he was just constantly working with him. But Wilder looked dangerous in those first few rounds. I think
did.
in round 4 when he got the double knockdown, I thought, holy shit, coming into this round 5, I don't know if he's going to be able to withstand
I thought he was
it.
done.
So
What-
my
I
heart
thought he was done, mate.
gone.
What did you think,
And
Zach?
Well, it's exactly the same. To be fair, he came out and you could immediately see the difference, couldn't you? Like, I've never seen Deontay Wilder throw a jab to the body. I mean, the thing is, Deontay Wilder's always had a good jab, but then it's interesting because the commentators are picking up on it as well. He's just relied, and in the last 5 or 6 fights, he's just relied so heavily on his power. Every right to, because obviously he's got that one punch knockout power, hasn't he? But he always had a decent jab, and like, he almost got in trouble when he fought Ortiz, didn't he? And luckily got through that because, again, of his power. But it was nice to see him come out with a jab. It was nice. But then
That shot, speaking of Ortiz, that shot he originally wobbled Fury with. You know when he did that straight right, caught him straight on his forehead, and you can see in a clip online
that
where
bent Ortiz's leg.
well, it sparked him, didn't it? But Fury took it straight on his forehead, and you can see the ripple go straight down his back.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that clip. Oh, it was insane.
I did, yeah.
I couldn't believe it. When he hit the deck, I thought, oh no. But it was the second knockdown that had me worried. I sat up in bed like, oh my God, what is happening?
That's what was interesting, though, because, like I said, Wilder came out with that jab, and he was doing really well, boxing really well. And then, obviously, Fury puts him down. And then Fury was bang on, to be fair, because as soon as Fury put him down, Wilder did revert back to old. And it was funny that when he did revert back to old, he dropped him. Do you know what I mean? But then I think Wilder's biggest issue is the weight. The weight is when he first fought Fury, he was 212, wasn't he? And obviously Fury was 250 something.
Yeah.
And that's when he had his best outing. Granted, it was a draw, but he looked better, didn't he? He carried the weight a bit better. His power doesn't change, I don't think, in terms of weight.
Yeah.
The heavier he gets, I think he's got sharp hands regardless. And ever since he's put on the extra weight, I mean, granted, it's only been 2 fights, but he's knackered, isn't he? For round 5, round 6, his power's still there.
By round 3, they were both on the bloody, pretty much on the ropes the entire fight. It's like they'd gone 10 rounds and we'd only just started.
We touched base on this, didn't we, Bran, with the weight on Twitter? I know we had a bit of an exchange talking about how he's put on the extra pounds. He's obviously going out there to do some damage early doors.
Yeah.
What fascinates me, and what fascinates me is he carries the power the whole fight. Like I'm constantly worried about him the entire 12 rounds. Like I wasn't because he was catching Fury like the whole time. Like there were occasions late on at 8, 9, 10. I was like, he can still fucking drop him here. Like he ain't out of this.
He can.
There was times as well though when it was like that. You know, Fury absolutely caned him all over the show. Was running him around the ring. And suddenly he would just come out of nowhere with a little 1-2, and he'd wobble Fury. And I think that's why it was such a, people online are going on about one of the best fights, and like tactically it wasn't. It was just the fact that Wilder was absolutely on the back foot the entire fight, getting the shit kicked out of him. But then he just seemed to come out of nowhere with these absolute whirlwinds, and then Fury was obviously just getting stuck in as well, which was.
Well, me and Zach were texting like halfway through that fight, and I was saying, I don't know what Fury's playing at here, because Fury, I personally felt, was far too aggressive. He was too eager to try and get him out of there. I felt like he should have been, like he dropped him, and then he should have been a bit more patient and pick his shots, but he kind of just jumped on him and tried to fucking rough him up, because it was at the end of the round, I think, weren't he? He dropped him, and then there's about 12 seconds left or something like that. I can't remember.
With the state of the heavyweight boxing at the minute, though, I think Fury went out to not just to beat the fight, but to make a statement. Absolutely. Obviously, you've got Joshua sat where he is. probably he's on the edge of his career. And there's this gap that's opened up now where it was constantly the 5 lads in the heavyweight division, or like, oh, it could be any of them. And I think now Fury knows, you know what, it isn't any of them. It's mine for the taking, and I need to
Yeah.
prove that tonight that I am the number one. And it sets up some real precedent fights for the future as well. Fury winning in that kind of fashion.
That's it. I mean, he's potentially got what? He's mandatory against Dillian White next. I think that's probably the next fight he's going to have to go through. And you've obviously got AJ and Usyk having their rematch. I think it come out. It was scheduled for March now, isn't it? I think I can't remember if I read that correctly. But they're going to be going. What do you make of Fury versus Dillian White first, and then touch base on AJ Usyk? Do you think White will be a difficult challenge for Fury, or do you think he'll clean up? And I think that's a hard fight personally.
It's a hard fight, but it's similar to the Wilder fight, isn't it? Where he's not like massively capable, but he could put Fury down, same as Wilder did. It's just it'll probably be a very similar scrap to the one we seen last night, where it's a lot of heavy hands, both fighters just going at it. But I think ultimately it's an easy fight for Fury. Really is.
I don't think he needs to be as scared as White, so he probably can do what he did similar to the first fight against Wilder and just stay at distance. He doesn't. He ain't going to be able to just walk down and body Dillian White. I don't think he's going to be able to bully him like he did.
What background has Dillian White got?
Well, yeah, that's it. Same as Bran.
Same as Bran.
Yeah,
so he's got that fight in him. Same as Wilder. Wilder both had fight in him. But the difference is with Dillian is that he's got a great jab. He's arguably got one of the best jabs in boxing. Dillian White has incredible, and he's tough. The only thing is, he's hittable, and it's the same as Wilder. AJ hittable. Like even Fury to some extent is as awkward as he is. Sometimes he's too awkward, and he gets hit where he shouldn't have got hit. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think that's because of the game plan, though. Like in that first fight, he had a flawless fight. The first one, he got dropped, obviously, and rose from the dead like the Undertaker. But I just think because he was aggressive, he was walking onto hands, weren't he? Whereas he doesn't need to do that against Dillian White. I think he can just dance around and do what he does.
Pick him off.
Yeah, like
he'll beat him.
What do you think of Usyk and AJ? Obviously, AJ went down. They've got the rematch.
Oh. I've not actually watched it back because I was working at the time, but I listened to it on the radio during. And from listening to it on the radio, it just sounded like AJ was not in the game. And that, I'd have liked to have seen that fight in a pre-pandemic state, because obviously AJ hadn't been in the ring for so long before that.
That's a good point.
He'd bounced back from the Ruiz fight. So after all that climax with the Ruiz getting beat by Ruiz, which no one expected, all the limelight and having to train so hard for that, to then come back and then fight someone like him, there's no surprise really that his ring craft wouldn't have been there, all that kind of stuff. He probably could have done with an easier opponent. But then when you're at that stage with that many titles, you can't pick easy fights. You can't.
True.
And there's that many people that are waiting and want their chance at the big dogs, that he had to fight the big lads, and it just didn't pay off. I think he could win it though in a rematch, but then he's lost that much credibility now because of the losses back to back with opponents. I think it's difficult for a Fury and AJ fight, which is obviously what a lot of people would want to see, to be of that caliber it would have been if he had won the fight last weekend.
That's it. It's lost some flavour, hasn't it? Now he's took that defeat. You go ahead, Zach. I'll give my thoughts afterwards. What did you make of the AJ performance?
Yeah, the AJ performance with me was a tricky one because, I mean, me and you had a conversation before the fight, didn't we? And I said what I thought would happen. I thought Joshua would go out there. It would be cagey for a few rounds, and then AJ would land one, and that would be it. Usyk would feel the power, and he'd understand the difference between heavyweight and cruiserweight. Do you know what I mean? And I thought that's how the fight was going to go. I thought AJ would get him late on, but he's just, ever since that Ruiz knockout, he's
scared.
Been so timid, hasn't he? Like he's trying to.
Yeah.
I didn't get the game plan. Trying to outbox arguably the greatest boxer in the game today. Do you know what I mean?
Technically,
him and Fury, like it just did not make sense. And again, for me, like I'll touch on this afterwards, but the coaching for me, Rob McCracken, that's got to change.
I agree.
He's a great. He's an amazing Olympic pedigree coach. Do you know what I mean? He'll get you an Olympic gold. Do you know what I mean? Like he's great at that. But when it gets to when it gets to the I don't want to say Olympics, not the big boys, because obviously it is. But when you get to
it's different than the pros, though. It's different from the pros.
It is full grown men. 17, 18 stone. You know, he's so like.
When I listen to the corner
Yes,
during
so
rounds
sweet.
and stuff, I just think, what are they telling him? Like,
Yeah, I know.
what? Yeah, keep going, AJ. You're doing fine. You're doing great. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Brilliant, AJ.
what
Brilliant,
the fuck?
AJ.
You're on glue. What are you watching right now?
know.
And I don't. Maybe he needs it because he does seem a bit fragile ego-wise, AJ. In my opinion, I don't know whether he's got the mental strength of the like. To be fair, Wilder last night impressed me. I was blown away by how tough that man is.
Yeah, very tough.
He wanted to go out on his shield in the second fight. That was why he kicked off, right? And they threw in the towel, and obviously that was the reason he got rid of his trainer. But he did, bloody hell, he had half a tough motherfucker going out last night. Jesus Christ. The amount of whips he took. But AJ, I don't think he's got that. I don't think he's got the mental toughness. Like,
I mean,
go on.
I'm looking at the stats now. Between AJ and Usyk, and like, he's AJ for one is super inefficient. He actually threw more jabs than Usyk, and
Really?
that just tells me, like 120 more. And it's
That's
Bloody
AJ
hell.
down to a T, though, isn't it?
It
AJ's
is,
like,
it just tells me he's so timid.
What was
now,
his
where
hitting
he's got-
percentage? Does it tell you his
hitting-
percentage?
Yeah, his percentage was 33%
Bloody hell.
compared to Usyk's 44. That's the difference, you know. Usyk's almost landing half his shots, like 96 power shots landed compared to AJ's 71, who's known for having knockout power. It's just it screams timid. It screams he's gone out there and he's scared to get it. And I think that's that Ruiz. That's that Ruiz
Don't
knockout.
understand why
It's the
he's scared of
confidence.
Usyk, though.
Confidence.
I agree with Bran. It's definitely a mental confidence thing. But why
It
was he
is.
scared of a cruiserweight? Like, what I thought would happen, right? If I'm AJ, I'm big 6 foot bodybuilding, bloody. He's a giant of a man, right? He's got power. We all know he's obviously knocking out everybody bar Parker and, well, pretty much Usyk, right? So even Andy Ruiz, he did actually knock him down before he got knocked out. So, I mean,
would have knocked him out as well.
that's it, right? I personally think AJ fucked that fight up, but he had it. He did have it. He just got a bit too hungry. He got a bit too hungry.
He wanted a safe win. He needed to get his titles back. That's what it was with Ruiz.
That's
he
it.
had
That's
to get
it.
his titles back, and so it was just constant defensive boxing.
Well, his career,
It wasn't. Yeah, I'm not here to put a show on. I'm here to play it safe, get my belts back, and then we'll go back to the drawing board.
100%, Bran. You're right, yeah. Whereas against Usyk, he just, as you touched on, Zach, he was just so timid. I thought he was just going to, like you said, use the size difference, the power difference, walk him down, rough him up a little bit like Chisora, but a bit more clinical. Because the Chisora was doing the right thing. He ain't as good a boxer as AJ. And I just thought he'd body him. He'd wear him down and lean on him. A bit like Fury did to Wilder. But he didn't. He tried to jab him and outbox the better boxer. It was just very bizarre.
Where I feel for AJ is that, again, the Ruiz fight, what Brand's just said, is that he had to win that fight to get his belts back. So it was a timid performance. And equally with this one, like the Fury fight, it was going to happen, wasn't it? Anthony Joshua Fury. It was massive.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen because of the arbitration, which Fury knew about, which winds me up as much as I love it. So
I think they could have got out of it, though. I think that was.
He could have. He said Wilder wanted 10 million to step aside, and Fury was like, "I wouldn't pay him 10 quid." He goes, "I'll just smash the bum instead."
That's Fury, isn't it?
But the thing is, like AJ, I feel for him because, like I said, the Ruiz fight had to get his belts back, and the Usyk fight was to save the biggest fight in boxing history, definitely in British history. And with AJ Fury, that's a lot of pressure for him. It is a lot of pressure, and you know, it is what it is. He's got a chance to redeem himself, hasn't he? Go back to the drawing board. Like I said, I'd like to see him come out, impose his will a bit more.
That's it.
Just knock him about. Because
That's it.
Usyk's tough and he's an incredible boxer. But what do they always say, Brian? You'll know. How'd you beat a technically sound fighter? You rough him up, don't you? That's
going hard.
If you're worse than him, you've got to do something else, haven't you? Be dirty. Look at Fury. He's filthy. Like, I mean, just goes in there. Knocks you about.
The ref, stop getting him in a headlock, Fury. I was pissing myself. That's the famous Klitschko thing, though. Klitschko used to do it. He used to get away with his whole career.
Jab and grab. Old Klitschko, jab and grab. Like that's, it works, isn't it? You find a way of winning and you do it. And I don't think AJ's found his yet. If he ain't knocking people out, he can't win. I know that sounds silly, but like it just doesn't work. I don't know. Like I say, he needs to change.
It's a tough time.
If
It's a tough time for the heavyweight boxing, and I think AJ is just that little bit behind to the bigger lads. And once he's lost his confidence, and also he's lost the confidence of the British public as well.
True.
He was like this crowned figure before all this.
Yeah.
Before the Ruiz fight, he was like the next fucking big thing, Sportsman of the Year, all
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
he was loved by all. And now it's completely flipped, and everyone loves Fury now. And it just shows as well, if you're Joshua and everyone is now, nah, Fury will smash him, where previously it was, no, I actually reckon Joshua could beat Fury. I reckon he could go toe-to-toe with Fury. Well, now there's no object, and once you've lost the British public's confidence, you've lost your own confidence. It's just a downhill slope.
I agree.
I mean,
Go on, Zach.
I still think in terms of like the AJ Fury fight, if that was to happen, I still think AJ's got a good chance. To be fair, if he sorts that chin out.
That's the thing for AJ. Like, I genuinely think if AJ fought Wilder, I would back Wilder in that fight. I really would.
It's tough.
It depends. It depends. If Wilder fought the way he did last night, which is an absolute tank, just keep walking him down, walking forwards, Joshua would probably revert to that back foot fighting that you've seen in the Ruiz fight, and he would just fight very smart again and probably just stifle the win. And not give Fury Wilder the chance to actually go for that KO punch.
Yeah, I'm so scared of AJ's chin that if Wilder hit him with the shots that Fury got hit with, he doesn't get up that second time. He didn't really get hit him the second time, did he? Kind of clipped him on the ear, but.
He was embarrassed. At AJ. That's what went wrong with him. But you're right. If Wilder connects with AJ, I'll be worried. I'll be fear for his life. I'll fear for his life. Let alone the match. I'll fear for his life. But like the thing is, AJ, as I said to you before, Miles, as well. Like before all this unfolded with the poor result for AJ and everything. Like I always said, if AJ and Fury was to fight, I'm sounding a bit of a hypocrite now, but I did always think that AJ would get the job done. As great as I think Fury is, and this is why I want to see. Like, I'm sure we'll touch on it. Like. What Fury has to do to become the GOAT, I need to see that fight because AJ, like, he doesn't just throw single shots. Like when Wilder gets you hurt, he did it a bit last night. He was throwing combinations, but when AJ gets you hurt,
he's clinical. He is clinical.
He's got you hurt. It's combinations, and he will hurt Fury. There's no way Fury gets.
I'll give Fury that when he not Fury AJ. Sorry, when AJ hurts someone, he is probably one of the best finishers in the division. Like he will get you out. Like once he hurt Vlad, that was it. Like he finished Vlad. Like he knew there was blood. Shark in the blood in the water, he went for him, and he's one of the best finishers. I do kind of agree. I just don't know whether he's got the ability to hurt Fury. Fury won't do the slugging that he did to Deontay against AJ. He'll do the first fight where jab outside move, head, feint, double feint. He won't trade with AJ. He's not stupid. I think he only did it to Deontay because he was pissed off with him and wanted him, like Bran said, make a statement. I don't think he'd do that against AJ.
You say that, but like you look at that first fight, I think that's why Fury had to revert to doing what he's doing. That's why he employed Sugar Hill. Like he wants to become. That's why he's packing on his weight. I think he's done with the dancing around Fury that's got him the belts and all things. I think he considers himself a one punch knockout artist. I generally do. Like he packs on all his weight, he employs Sugar Hill, he goes out there and flattens Wilder twice. Essentially, who's to say he won't go do that to AJ? I think if he does, I think that'd be his best chance of winning. I do. I think if you fluster AJ and back him up. I think he struggles. I do. I think he struggles.
Well, let me fire this at you both. You've got quick fire question to both of you. So Bran first. Fury versus AJ. Who are you taking?
Fury.
Decision, knockout.
Knockout.
Okay.
Later on.
Same question to you, Zach. Fury, AJ. Who are you taking? If you had to bet your life right now.
Currently, I'm taking Fury by knockout, and I'm taking it 4-6.
And then
Fury very quick.
Back to Bran. Wilder versus AJ. Who are you taking?
I'd probably go AJ. I think Wilder's capable to do it, but I think AJ would just go really smart with it. He would, and I think he'd win on points.
Okay. And Zach?
I think it. I'll take AJ for now. I'll take AJ for now. As much as I think. I'm a hypocrite because I said last night it was off emotion. I think Wilder would beat him. I think if Wilder fights like last night, AJ, I've only seen the fight in AJ once, and that was against Vlad, and it was only one knockdown. I think if Wilder hits him, it's a different story. But I'm going to go AJ for now. I'm going to go AJ points.
Because I want to transition from heavyweight boxing to something that we're all excited for in more MMA world is the heavyweight scene of the UFC. So obviously we've recently had John Jones. We'll talk about that quickly. Like, what is that man doing with his life right now? I don't understand what is going on. Like,
he's on a roller coaster, mate. You know,
he always has been. When did he get off it?
He wanted to do legally controversial shit, and I think he misplaced the memo. I think he got that terribly wrong. He is what he is, isn't he? John Jones.
He's just gone off the radar a bit, like just gone a bit wild, hasn't he?
He's done that old domestic abuse thing, and he's just disappeared. Because you've got, similar to the Fury Wilder AJ triad in boxing, you've kind of got that now in the UFC with John Jones, obviously arguably the GOAT. You've got Ngannou and Cyril Gane, which that's just been booked, I believe. Is it for January? I mean, is it January? Yeah. So you've got Ngannou versus Cyril, which is going to be.
I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited for that.
Out of those two, obviously you've got a similar situation where Ngannou is kind of like Wilder. He just swings, knocks out, raw athleticism and power. And then you've got Gane, who is basically like Fury, dances around. He'll just pick his shots, move around. Who are you taking in that potential heavyweight fight? Start with Bran, I guess.
I'd go Ngannou, to be honest. Like you said, I feel like heavyweight UFC is very similar to that of heavyweight boxing. You look down the ranks in UFC and it comes a different strategy completely. But with the heavyweights, with the big lads, it is a lot of that dancing around. It is a lot of the big punches and all that, you know. And I think Ngannou would take it for that purpose.
I think he would. What do you think? I think you're a big Gane fan, aren't you?
You know my thoughts. Yeah, I'm going Gane. I'm going Gane. I think.
What's the reason you think Gane's got that he can beat Ngannou?
Because he's fundamentally and technically incredible for someone of his size. It's not Fury. It's not Fury for boxing. Like, he doesn't get hit. His defense is solid. He's got power because obviously he's a heavyweight, and he's rapid. He's so quick.
He is fast. Very fast.
The thing is with Francis is that a man of that size, that scary, with 4-ounce gloves. I mean,
he's got a nuclear weapon in his hands. Like, that man, literally, once he touches you, it's like Conor McGregor at featherweight. It's just death. And
he's better at using it in that type of environment than actually probably Wilder is at using it in boxing. Like, Ngannou's timing with his power and his, obviously MMA is more messy, isn't it, than boxing? So you do get away with a bit more, you know,
scrambling. Yeah.
You can get a bit more sloppy. But that's the versatility in it.
That's
why it's mixed.
I would go Gane. I would. I just think he's got too much for him. I think Ngannou would, like, similar to the Stipe first fight. I think Gane does him. Who knows? But I think I'd go Gane.
This is why I'm kind of backing Ngannou with Bran, because the first Stipe fight is a perfect example. He got outworked, didn't he? He got took down. Stipe took some shots then. I don't think him getting chinned by Cormier helped him in the rematch with Ngannou. But because once your chin goes, I've always said, once you get knocked out clean, like sparked out, it stays with you. Your chin's never the same. Yeah, your chin's never the same.
Muscle damage and all that, isn't it?
That's it.
It's not.
That's it. It's never the same. And I think, obviously, once Ngannou clipped him the second time, he's probably going to retire now, Stipe, ain't he? But with this, I think he didn't get stuck. He stuffed the takedowns. He took them down from Stipe. Obviously, he tried to adopt the same tactics as the first fight. And Ngannou was a lot better. I think he's got his mental demons out of the way from the Derek Lewis fight. And I just think Gane is fast, but he's got to dodge Ngannou for 5 rounds. I just don't think he's got it in him. Because like you said, it's messy. Ngannou can literally go forward swinging, and the cage is a lot smaller than a boxing ring. So I just don't see him escaping him that long. I really don't. If Ngannou can keep it standing, eventually he's going to clip him. I personally see.
I forgot, but when did Ngannou finish Stipe? Was it second round? It was second round.
Round 2 it was.
Second.
What we haven't seen, and what we have seen is Francis does deteriorate very quickly. Like, obviously it's fight. Like, he does get tired very quickly, and it's obvious. You know, it happens because someone who's throwing that much torque, and you know, you're going to get tired.
Well, your muscles fatigue, don't they? Like, look at
always like that with the heavyweights.
Look,
in the UFC. They deteriorate so quick.
Whereas Gane, his style He'll
Relentless.
be fresh for 5.
Yeah.
He'll be fresh for 5. He'll be
Yeah.
fresh for 5. And I think if Ngannou doesn't get him out of there in
2.
first 2,
Yeah.
it's Ngannou to lose. And we've never seen Ngannou lose. You know, we've seen Ngannou lose. I know it's more common in MMA, obviously by Habib, but you know, we've not seen Ngannou lose. We've seen Ngannou lose. The blueprint to beat him is there.
And do you think John Jones has got the ability to beat them both? Well, obviously he's got the ability, but do you think he will?
I will. I'd never bet against John Jones. Never. Like, I'd never bet against John Jones. Well, there's no evidence, is there? Like, you know, he's the greatest of all time for me. So.
John Jones is on another level.
He's never fought at heavyweight though, boys. He has never had a fight at heavyweight.
He basically, he beat Cormier. Cormier's heavyweight. Yeah, it was the heavyweight champion, wasn't it? He's going to know what it feels like. Ngannou's different story, isn't it? I think he's a freak, but everyone else, Lewis, you could chuck in there, but I think he deals with him. I do. It's like you said, Miles. You've said that Jones is the greatest at beating people at their own game. I'm not sure he'd do that with Ngannou, but
well, that's it. I don't see him going out there and sparking Ngannou flatlining.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
I can't imagine.
But then he could easily run him for fucking 5 rounds and then play him in the 5th round. Very easy.
True. He's a very intelligent fighter, Jones. Obviously, he's debatably the GOAT. You know, he's got the resume, youngest ever UFC champion. Speaking of GOATs, obviously, we had GSP inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame recently. Brian, I want to pick your brain. Who, if you had to do... Yeah, but give me your UFC GOAT and also your favourite fighter growing up. Obviously, you're a scrapper yourself, so who's your...
My favourite fighter it's oh my God, my head's gone here. You know that fella with all the tattoos? What's his fucking name? In the he's lost so many fights though recently.
What weight class?
The only reason I really like him is from because of Cody Garbrandt. He's just nuts, and I love watching. What's that other program that they do? The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah,
and that season with him on it is class. Yeah. And ever since then, whenever he's fighting, I'm like, I'm watching this. It's gonna be class. And he just gets levered now. He's so shit now. But I still love him. I still love him to this day, Garbrandt. He's absolutely class.
He had that. He had one of the best title fight performances of all time, though, when he beat Dominic Cruz. Oh my God! Oh my God!
When you look at what Cruz was doing. And you look at where Garbrandt was at that time, it's arguably the greatest.
He was undefeated then, weren't he, Garbrandt, at that point in time, I think?
Yeah, it was arguably the greatest
dancing on him in the ring, doing the robot and all sorts of stuff, weren't he?
He flexed on him, literally flexed on him. It was absolutely incredible. He lives by the sword and he dies by it, doesn't he? That's what I love about him. He's either going to knock someone out or he's getting chinned.
That's true.
That's true. What I love.
I did love them TJ Dillashaw fights with Garbrandt. That was incredible.
Yeah, they were class. I think as well with the Dillashaw, like little tuffle they always had. I loved it. It was like
the beef.
Drama-filled UFC. It was so much good. It's so good to watch. It was like you know how McGregor always has that beef with his opponents in his class. Yeah. It was just like that, except it just felt more sincere, like they actually fucking hated each other.
You're right, they did. Oh, incredible.
Who's your GOAT, Bran? Who's your UFC? Well, MMA GOAT. I mean, don't have to
me, because when Conor McGregor put UFC on the map for me, he changed the entire game. He made the sport so much more mainstream.
He did,
and I think you can't forget that. Although now he has gone downhill a lot now. And it's because he's worth so much money now. He fights because he has to. He loses money when he fights. And I think that has a massive impact on him. He's just a businessman now. But other than that, other than the past few years and everything that's happened, for what he did to bring UFC into the mainstream and make it, everyone knows what the UFC is now, and everyone knows Conor McGregor. And because of that, you can't say, I would have to say it's Conor McGregor, just the GOAT of MMA in general.
Fair enough, yeah, because of what he's done to influence the sport, right?
Social status, yeah.
And the thing is, he does have quite an argument in terms of inside the sport. No, he hasn't made any defences, and yes, he has fallen off quite a bit recently, but he was featherweight champion. He knocked out Aldo in incredible fashion, who was reigning supreme for, I can't even remember, was it like 10 years he was unbeaten? Right?
10 years undefeated.
Knocked him out in 13 seconds, went up and put on, in my opinion, probably the best performance I've ever seen from someone to get the lightweight strap from Eddie Alvarez. It was a flawless performance. Absolutely flawless. On the biggest stage, Madison Square Garden, I think it was the first fight in Madison, or maybe the second. Can't remember. But they'd only just got a card at New York around that time. Was it the first? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that flawless performance and became the first ever double champ. So he does have, obviously people who shoot him down say he's not the GOAT. But if you wanted to make that argument, you can. Do you know what I mean? Like, you very much can. Like Bran said, the influence is there. He did make it mainstream. He's the biggest earner in UFC history by a fucking mile.
Oh, and they're still getting paid. They're still getting paid pennies. Like, some of them come away with like 10 grand a fight.
That's it.
And they're there on pay-per-view events and everything.
That's it. They're loving the fact that they get that 50 grand knockout bonus and stuff. Like, Conor,
oh yeah, fight of the night. That's what you're going for, isn't it?
Conor's out there making millions.
That performance, when you think about it, is actually frightening. What he did on that particular stage, the odds that are at stake, was absolutely
incredible.
And what he did as well, like you said, absolutely flawless. Barely took a punch, stuffed Eddie's takedowns with ease, and absolutely levered him.
Who's your GOAT, Zach? You had to pick a GOAT.
I've got two really. I've got my favourite, and then I've got the GOAT. I've got John Jones for me as the GOAT, undeniably, unquestionably the GOAT. But Anderson Silva is my favourite fighter ever. Anderson Silva was absolutely. He had everything, didn't he? Like, just the showboat in the ring. I love people that just come on then.
Anderson
let's see what you got.
He was incredible. He's like the Ali of UFC, isn't he? He's just
perfect.
He was incredible. Like, I remember back when I was a lot younger, because I got into UFC when I was a young teenager. And I remember UFC was on very late or very early morning. It was like 2 a.m. or something like that. Like, I can't remember the channel. And it always used to be GSP and Anderson, what's the word? Replays. Like, fights of, it was, I can't remember the channel, but it used to do replays. Replays of Anderson Silva and GSP. And honestly, I fell in love. Chuck Liddell was around at that time. What a man.
Oh, Chuck Liddell as well. He was class.
My GOAT. See, I'm a weirdo. Like, I take into account a lot of external factors, which I probably shouldn't. Like Bran, like, you have to take into account the influence on the sport and things like that. Yeah. John Jones obviously has had his troubles in terms of a talent. He's the most talented fighter, I think, of all time, baddest man to ever live. But he's not my GOAT. I'd probably have GSP just because of.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is massive though. GSP. You can't, for what he did, everything, like, pound for pound, all that kind of stuff was class. See, like, I really like Sean O'Malley as well. For example,
what a fighter! What a fighter!
I love. And then my most recent one, Paddy the Baddy, man.
Paddy the Baddy
is coming out, and he's changing the game again. He's doing what Conor McGregor did all those years ago. But he's like, you know, that like meme-ish fighter, and he's hilarious. Everyone loves him, and everyone's getting behind him because of what he does. And
he's a personality. He's a personality, isn't he?
And that'll be a future one for me.
The UFC, mate,
fighting the way he does as well, man.
They love the Scousers. Darren Till, unfortunately, hasn't lived up to the bill. He keeps getting sparked out and losing and whatnot. But Paddy the Baddy, we'll have to see how he does. He got rocked in his first fight, but he put him away, didn't he? I'm a bit sceptical of him. We have to see him against some tougher competition. But he wants to be the new Conor, doesn't he? For his opening. That's it.
What do you think about Habib? Open question to both of you, really.
To be fair, I think he's definitely the lightweight GOAT, right? He's the GOAT of his division. But the thing that holds him back in my eyes, and a lot of people's eyes, is he retired at the top of his game. He never really defended his belt against many people, if any. Did he defend it? He defended it against Gaethje, didn't he, and Conor and that. But he didn't have a massive run of title defenses like your Anderson Silva, your John Jones, your GSP, your Usman, who we'll get to later. 29-0, but he did have about 15 of them padded. So.
Yeah,
but he only lost one round. He lost one round his entire career. Do you know how fucking insane that is? Like, that is ridiculous.
Who did he lose it to?
Well, he did lose it to Conor. But that was ego, because he wanted to stand with Conor. If he wanted to take him down, he would have took him down.
It's true.
Did he?
It shows a lot about wrestling and the impact wrestling has on MMA. if someone is very good wrestler, they'll always win. If someone's a very good striker,
True.
they'll always struggle to a wrestler.
I've always said the best base, if I was to build a fighter at 5 years old, ground up, I'd want their base to be wrestling, because you can teach striking. You can, like you said,
very easily.
That's it.
Look what Lesnar did. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He's a WWE superstar. I probably had a few fights in his life, and then went and takes over UFC heavyweight division, and just by mauling people, like you said, anybody can throw it.
Well, look at Usman. Usman is just, he gets older and puts you down. Now, he has actually developed his striking. He has developed his striking, and I do want to get to a future card 268 where Usman's going to face Colby in a second. But his wrestling, when he fought Tyron Woodley, he didn't let the man breathe. Like, he couldn't even breathe, and it was very much like a Habib performance. He just put it on him, and that was it. Like, Woodley at that time was sparking people out. He was a good fighter. Like, I think he downed Darren Till the fight before, did he not? Obviously, Wonderboy chinning him. He was just chinning everyone. Obviously, when he took out Lawler, I just think wrestling is absolutely the base you need. Absolutely. But
the thing is, Woodley's a great wrestler. Like, I just think
there's levels.
Like you said, every now and again, like there's obviously eras in every sport, but every now and again you come up against somebody who just takes over, don't they? Then they get put in that discussion, like you said. Like, I imagine Kamaru is going to be in that discussion very, very soon.
Well, obviously you've got the Colby rematch. What do you boys? Yeah. What do you make of that, Bran? Who do you think's going to take that? Would you like Colby? Are you an Usman guy?
I'm an Usman guy, to be honest. I think Usman will take Colby again. No questions asked, really. He's just got a lot more knockdown potential.
True. He's got the power, hasn't he? He put away Masvidal after that second fight. That was insane, to be fair. I didn't expect that.
Well, I really thought Masvidal would have done a lot more with that. Obviously, Masvidal took the first fight purely to get a second fight, and I thought, right, he knows what he's doing. He's going to play the first fight. He's going to read Usman, and then he's going to go back. He's going to train fucking for an Usman fight, and he might come back and do something. And it shows its class, isn't it? And Usman's got the class.
Yeah, I mean, I know Zach's a Colby fan, so I'll let you fire away on why you think he's got the tools to beat him.
The reason why I'm a Colby fan is because I love people that talk a bit of shit. It's more exciting, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I love someone who talks shit. You hate them. Even if you hate them, you want to watch them. You want to see him get knocked out, or you want to see him win, don't you? But the reason why I'm 60-40 and I'm 60-40 Colby, and the reason why is because if you go back and watch the first fight, there was moments in that fight where, I mean, it's debatable, but Colby hit Usman with a nice kick, and it was literally, they say it was low and things like that, but that hurt him. And I think Colby's volume, his stamina is second to none.
He has an insane gas tank, doesn't he, Colby?
He does, and Usman won't wrestle with him. He won't, because Colby's equally as good a wrestler. Like, I'm not sure how many. I mean, I've watched so many Colby fights. Like, Colby's insane wrestler, like absolutely incredible. That's why they stand and bang. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, true.
I think it just comes down to technique and, as Bran said, class. And I think whereas Colby's a bit more volume, and obviously that wins fights. It can put pressure on you. Whereas Usman's now is it's so sweet, isn't it? It's so polished now. His striking. I think
he's loads better. Better than when he first came in. I remember watching him on Tough. And he lost on Tough. He lost against a guy. I can't remember the guy's name. He got another one who got done for domestic abuse. But he done in Usman.
See,
and
a growing trend here.
And he went on. The guy got suspended, and then obviously Usman filled his place on the Ultimate Fighter finale and won. And then obviously that started his career, and he hasn't lost since, I don't think. No, he hasn't. I don't think he's lost a fight in the UFC, has he?
No, he's not. No, and this is it. Like, whereas Kamaru is still improving and progressing, I think Colby probably reached his peak now. We'll see what he does with this new camp. He did look good against Woodley, but again, Woodley was finished.
I genuinely think if Usman cleans out Colby, knocks him out, and then he wins maybe 2 or 3 more fights,
two more fights.
Yeah, well, of welterweight, which is obviously GSP's domain, and I think you have to put it in there. He hasn't lost. He's beat everyone in front of him.
The Matt Serra loss on GSP record hurts him massively, albeit he redeemed it. That loss is just terrible. A fluke loss, isn't it? Like, you shouldn't be losing to somebody like Matt Serra. You just shouldn't be. Not when you're GSP.
True.
I know it's MMA and things do happen. Do you know what I mean? But that will tarnish him. If Usman doesn't have that, that could have been a Masvidal thing for him, I suppose. But if he doesn't have that, yeah, for sure, 2 more fights, Colby rematch. See who else is out there. There's not really any decent like.
Not welterweights, no.
No, like Wonder Boy's finish. I mean, you've got Khamzat Chimaev coming up. We'll see what he's about.
What did you make of the Nick Diaz fight, boys?
Oh, it was rough to watch.
It was,
It was
wasn't it?
rough to watch.
It was rough to watch.
It was like two old men getting in there and just bit of cuddling, bit of back tickling, all that. They both looked. I thought they both looked rusty as hell.
No, Diaz. I don't want to see him fight again. I thought.
No, I think he needs to just live in the past and let it go.
Yeah.
Just let it go now.
Yeah.
You don't want to. What you don't want to become is you don't want to become someone who just gets in with young lads, gets filled in, and then they go, look.
Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez is doing that right now. He gets filled in almost all the time.
Yeah. Oh, it happens in every sport. Look at what's his name in boxing? That Asian fella, one who fought Canelo.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Not Amir Khan.
No, not Amir Khan. Khan.
Although, yeah, I don't like Amir Khan.
But anyway, he's in his 50s now, and he fights every 2 weeks. And he fought Canelo, and Canelo, when he lost to Canelo, it was like the downhill of his career. And after that, he fights every 2 weeks. He might win the odd one, but most of the time he's getting in with lads that are in the 20s. They fill him in, and then they get a W on his card, and he gets paid whatever it is, 50 grand. And he's like, yes, no worries.
Mate, that card, just going backwards, that 266 card, that Volkanovski versus Ortega fight, did you both watch that? That was absolutely nuts.
Bracker. Yeah.
One of the best. What is he made of?
Who, Volk?
No.
Ortega.
What is he made of? He's made of some else.
Yeah, because Holloway put an absolute pounding on him as well, didn't he?
He did. His chin doesn't seem to deteriorate. He just takes a battering after battering.
How the hell Volk got out of them 2 submissions, though? When I was watching that, honestly, my heart was in my mouth because I'm a big Volk fan. And oh my God. And it was TC. Like, he was done. Like, I was sat there like, he's done. Like, Ortega ain't missing 2 submissions. But it's just hard. Like, there's something about people going out on their shield that I find admirable. And he just refused to quit. Like, it's like when John Jones fought Tito Ortiz and he snapped his arm. He didn't want to tap, did he? He didn't want to tap. He was like, you're gonna have to kill me to take this belt off me.
Yeah. Cejudo Moraes.
It's a pure level of willpower.
It is. Yeah. Speaking of Cejudo, he wants to come back and fight Volk, get the 4th.
I'd love to see that.
Dub of his career.
Oh my God! Where does Cejudo place? If he beats if he comes back,
top three. If he that's 3 weights, I don't think anyone's ever won 3 belts.
Top 3? Why not the GOAT?
I mean,
Olympic champion.
You could argue it.
3 weights, the first ever do it. Like, his only loss is DJ, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And obviously we know DJ. Obviously, what career he had. Yeah. Who are you taking in that fight, Bran? Volk or Cejudo?
See, I'm with you. I'm a very big Volk fan as well, so I'd probably go Volk. And to come out of retirement and come into a fight like that, it's a bit
true.
It's a big fight. It's a big fight.
True. I think that's why Conor suffered against Habib. To be honest, he was out the ring too long. He went to boxing, fucked around with Floyd Mayweather, and he weren't at his peak.
Well, you forget when you're a lot of these UFC fighters, they wake up in the morning, they'll do the cardio, they'll go to the gym, they'll be in the gym all day, they'll do their own training, they'll be training other people, and just being in that environment all day is massive for your own performance. Conor McGregor's running 5 or 6 businesses. He probably goes to the gym in the morning and then he gets off after 2 hours after he's done his pads. Yeah. Obviously, he has a very large gym over in Ireland. But
SBG, isn't it? Yeah.
He's busy. He's doing other stuff. He's not in that environment enough. Like even in the Muay Thai scene that I do, I know lads that their full-time job is Muay Thai. They wake up in the morning, they do whatever, and then they're just in the gym all day, and it's just their life. It's their lifestyle. and it builds up because even when you're training other people, you're doing pads with other people, you're constantly learning. Holding pads for someone, it's training you in the art of defense as well at the same time.
It is
because you're anticipating punches, you learning body motion, all stuff like that, and it's rust. It's rust.
It's rust. Yeah, that's the word I was waiting for. Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to compete with the big boys,
especially someone like Habib. You need to be fresh. You need to be in it. Like I feel like I could be wrong. I feel like he was half pissed half the time at them press conferences with McGregor. I felt like he was on his fucking proper 12, fucking off his nut.
Swinging it.
3 glasses of whiskey, didn't he? I mean, one shot of whiskey knocks me spark out. So God knows what he'd been feeling like.
Well, speaking of Conor, obviously, you've got coming up on the Usman Colby card 268. You've got Gaethje Chandler. Obviously, you've got Conor.
That's a good fight.
That is a good fight, which I'll get to in a sec. You've got Conor, obviously, who just lost to Dustin because of the leg break. Where does Conor go from here? Like, where would you put him?
What, in terms of his next fight? Or,
yeah. Where would you send Conor if you were like, right, this is... I personally think Nate. I think Nate, run it back, trilogy fight. What do you boys think?
I kind of completely agree. And I think that would be very nice for sales. Loads of people tie into it. They'll go, yeah, fuck it, I'm there to watch that. You know what I mean? And it would be a huge fight because they'll just slog the shit out of each other as well and make a
that second fight was incredible.
Contender. Yeah. Oh, one of the best fights I've ever watched.
Yeah,
that second fight.
Yeah, that's a fight. I think I kind of agree as well. Like it doesn't take any selling. You haven't got to try and convince people that McGregor's still got it because people are going to pay to see Diaz McGregor regardless of they've lost 5 in a row each.
Yep.
I think Diaz is on the tail end. It could be a nice warm-up fight for McGregor coming into his prime regardless of the leg break.
Because he's not old, is he, McGregor? He's not old at all. He's what, 32?
He's 33 now. But if you look at sports in general, like people's primes are just extending, aren't they? Like LeBron, like the greatest case. Like
Ronaldo, that man's 36 and he's still going mental.
Like you've got so many people now. Like Messi's 34 and he looks 33, 34. He doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon, does he? Like I know different sport, but I just think people's primes are extending now, and I just think McGregor
lifestyles have changed a lot.
That's it. Modern medicine, modern medicine as well.
The days of people smoking biffs at the half-time break and all that now, and having a quick pie and chips and then getting back on the pitch. You've got nutritionists and all that kind of stuff. But even then, I think the peak of an MMA fighter really depends on when they start. Because you can't have more than like 20, 30 fights and expect to still come out fresh. Your body's torn to bits, Those 4-ounce gloves, it's worse getting punched in 4 ounces than it is getting punched bare knuckle. Because at least when you get punched bare knuckle, that's it, you're out for the count. When you've got 4 ounces, it's just constant head, your brain rattling. True. All of these lads in the MMA now, in the scene, they'll all be, you hear about it now with all the boxers. They're in their 50s. They've all got massive brain problems. And in the MMA, it'll be 100% worse. They'll all be fucked by the time they're in the 40s.
Well, look at the bloody Tito and everyone. They're crackpots. Like they've lost their mind.
They all have. Well, you can only take so much, like, beating before. And don't forget, they're not just getting in the ring once a month. They'll be sparring probably 3 times a week. It's the same in boxing. They spar, and when you spar in boxing, you spar heavy. It's basically a fight. You're just fighting with someone else, but with a head guard on. And it's all that, getting punched in the head all day, every day. It takes its toll on you very fast.
I can imagine.
And who have you got taking? Obviously, Dustin's booked now against Oliveira. I'm a big Dustin fan. I know you don't like him, Zach. I love Dustin. As a fighter, I mean, I don't really care.
I love him as a fighter.
As a fighter.
I'm not a fan of this.
Yeah, I don't really care about. That's it. But who would you take, Dustin versus Oliveira?
Over to you, Bram.
I'm a bit biased. Like I said, I think Dustin's got the tools to beat him. He's tough.
Yeah.
And he has got good enough jiu-jitsu to keep Oliveira off him.
Yeah, I think Oliveira is obviously he's had patches, hasn't he? He's had patches in his career where he's been like great and then he's been not so great. And now he's on the one these never runs again where he's great, isn't he? And
it's like 9 in a row, isn't it, or something?
This is it. Like right now, I think it's 50-50. I really do. Styles make fights, don't they? Like, I think
it could easily go anyway.
Yeah,
Easily.
Chandler flattened Oliveira, and arguably if there's 20 more seconds of that round,
Charles, going for the champ.
this is it. Like, you know, and it's Dustin could very, 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 very well put him out. Don't know, 50-50 for me. Couldn't call it at the minute.
And then Gaethje Chandler. That's obviously on the Usman card. Who have you got in there? That's going to be a scrap. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Gaethje for me.
Gaethje.
Yeah.
He's been out. He's
I'd
been
probably
out a
go
while.
same, you know.
When was the Khabib fight? When was that?
2020.
And was that his last fight?
Yeah,
And that must have been early. That must have been like Feb time, because I remember it being early. It weren't late on in.
No, 'cause he fought when did he fight? He fought Tony in 2020 as well, didn't he? Because it was crowdless. Because I remember hearing the slugs at Gaethje and Ferguson.
Oh, it
Gaethje
was.
landed on
It was during
Oh,
COVID.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
right.
Ferguson
You're
was
right.
gonna die. Gaethje versus Khabib. When was that? No, I should know that, but it was 24th of October, 2020. Yeah, late October. And that, but again, like you got look at the fight before that where he fought Tony. He battered him. He's never looked so good, Gaethje. He was patient, and power and patience is the most deadly combo, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, and he's got both of those in abundance at the minute. If you go back to old Gaethje, I imagine Chandler probably pieces him up. But at the minute, I'm going Gaethje. I think it'll spark him.
Who do you
Yeah,
think,
I
Bram?
think Gaethje as well. I think Gaethje as well. And I'll tell you now, it won't go the distance, that fight.
No.
It'll be a slugfest until someone fucking flops.
They're
I
both
think
good.
Gaethje will probably come out on top.
He's got a chin. Gaethje, I'll give him that. Like, he's tough as nails. Like, when Dustin beat him, that was a war. Oh, that was an absolute scrap. And that's why I quite like Dustin. He does have heart. Yeah, where they're having a good dust up. No pun intended. But speaking of the last fight on that card, I just want to touch on. You've got Valentina, right? Now, Valentina, in my opinion, is the best woman fighter on the roster. She dominated her fight at 266. Do you think it's worth Valentina? I know this is random. Do you think Valentina should fight Nunes for a third time? And do you think she's got the ability to beat her?
Yes, I do.
I think so. Just for the women in the sport as well to showcase that level of skill again. It's only a positive thing, you know. The fact that they only have 3 weight categories and stuff like that. In this day and age, you need to give more opportunity to that, and the only way you can do that is by presenting these huge scale fights.
True. Super fights with women needs to be done more often, doesn't it?
Yeah, they know. Half of the time, it's like Nunes getting in with someone who we know she'll beat. You know, she walks it, job done.
That Cyborg fight, Jesus Christ! Did you two watch that?
That was the most unexpected end for me. I didn't expect that. I did not.
She absolutely flatlined her. Like, she was done. She was out cold.
She was dead. I thought for a second she was gone. I thought that was
when
it.
Cyborg hit. Oh my god, that was one of the best fights I've ever seen. To be honest, it was.
I love Cyborg as well. Absolutely love her. She's class, mate.
Absolute beast. But this is why I think it's unfair for Valentina, because obviously, in my opinion, the only reason why Nunes wins those fights is because, like I said, for me, Valentina's skill levels, she's a level above, in my opinion. I think Nunes is too big for her. The weight is just an issue. I don't think it will never be a fair fight. If they're both in a perfect world, they're both the same weight. I think for me, Valentina does her. I really do. I think Valentina's absolutely special. Like, she just makes it look so easy. Nunes relies a lot on her attributes.
Nunes was fighting at featherweight, right? Like, she was 2 weight classes above where Valentina is now when she fought Cyborg. Right. So, yeah, she's just a much bigger person. And if she came down, then Valentina might win. But speaking of women, you've got 268 Thug Rose versus Weili Zhang, the rematch. I mean, Thug Rose to me is just. I don't think she's like a long reigning champion, but she's incredible. And Weili Zhang is just tough as nails. Who do you think's going to win that one?
Thug.
I think Thug.
Thug is like she's incredible. Like, look at that last outing. Like, that last outing was. You can't, but in my opinion, you can't bet against her after coming off a performance like that. That's incredible.
I think it's a close fight. I think it's not so easy to call. Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough
Fair
one.
enough. And then Luke Rockhold's going to return against Strickland. Now, I love a bit of Luke Rockhold. The problem is he's got a glass chin, that man. But in terms of his skill set, he does have the ability to beat Izzy, I think. He really does in terms of his skill set. He has everything in his locker. Like, when he was reigning champion, when he beat when he beat Weidman back in the day, honestly, I thought he was going to reign forever. And then Bisping come along and fucking chinned him and sparked him out. I couldn't believe Bisping did that. Honestly, that was mental to me. What a legend Bisping is, by the way. But do you think it's wise Luke Rockhold having another crack at it?
Yeah, definitely. He's got, like you said, he's got a skill set, hasn't he? I bet you've got a lot of time for him, Bran, with his style. Like,
it's a payday at the end of the day as well for him. Fuck
it
it,
is.
you know.
And
A lot of these retired MMA fighters, they come out of the UFC, they come out of MMA. They don't really make much money, and they're like, I've got no choice but to fight. I'm gonna have to go back.
Yeah,
do you think he could beat Izzy, or who, if not him, who do you think has the best ability or chance to beat Izzy, Bran?
It comes down to confidence, though, again, doesn't it? And if he can, you know, it's exactly the same as the Conor McGregor, the AJ, all that we've already talked about. And is the ring confidence going to be there, or is the more active fighter just going to come in and dominate?
What do you reckon, Zach? Izzy, Rockhold?
Izzy Rockhold would be a great fight. I think, again, Rockhold's got the skill to beat him, but ultimately, I think Izzy would win. I think Izzy's toughest fight is going to be Whittaker again. I think that's
the rematch.
Toughest. Yeah, I think that's ultimately going to be his toughest test. But Izzy seems unbeatable, doesn't he? He's got that.
Well, I mean, Jan beat him, but he was the bigger man, wasn't he? He just laid on him and did what he needed to do.
So, again, it's a tough one. But this is beautiful, isn't it? Like, I love not knowing what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, the truth is, you never know what's going to happen, do you? Like, 4-ounce gloves, and you've got elite level fighters twatting each other. I mean, anything can happen, can't it? Do you know what I mean? So,
it's just the thing.
That's the nature of MMA as well. Anything can happen. All it takes is one shot on the chin.
Well, that's exactly it. And the reason I love Izzy is he's a superstar. Like, he's an absolute superstar. He's got the personality. You know, he does all these crazy ring walks and dances, and he's doing like Naruto and bloody anime. So I just love his personality. The guy is box office. Now, I do think he's delusional if he thinks he can beat John Jones. He would have got bodied. Jan beat him. John Jones would have battered him. Absolutely battered him. But what I would have loved to see, I know he beat Anderson Silva, but he was 40 when he fought him. I would have loved to have seen a prime Anderson versus Izzy. Just a striking battle between them two. It'd be like a chess match.
It would be. I'd go Anderson, but it'd be a great fight.
You think Anderson takes him, do you?
Yeah, prime Anderson. He's scary.
Prime, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely scary, prime Anderson. I mean, Jesus, like, oh God, like, I'd love to see Chael Sonnen against Izzy. I reckon Chael Sonnen would whoop his ass.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely. I reckon Chael Sonnen would get him down and he'd sit on him all fight and just laugh.
Well, obviously back in the day you had Chael Sonnen fight Silva and he was leathering in both fights.
Chael Sonnen, I'm telling you now, Chael Sonnen, I'm sure Chael Sonnen would whoop him. I reckon he'd get in, he'd take him down. He's an amateur on the feet, isn't he? Like Chael, but he'd take him down and Izzy's got no ground game.
We haven't really seen him, have we? Yeah, we haven't seen Izzy on his back.
He's got no ground game. His defense looks a little bit.
He's an animal up top, isn't he?
Well, we've seen, obviously, we're in the super fight era, aren't we? With obviously double champs and all this booking of double fights. GSP versus Anderson Silva was something that never came to fruition, which I'm absolutely mortified by. Who would you have in that one?
I think GSP personally.
Do you?
It goes back to if you're talking both in their absolute prime.
Peak, yeah. Anderson Silva peak, GSP peak. Who are you having?
If it was peak, maybe Anderson Silva, but
go on, pick one, Bran. Go on, Bran.
I could see GSP beating him. I could. I love GSP, and I don't know whether that's rose-tinted glasses, but I think he would. I think he would beat it.
Oh, I think he would. What do you reckon, Zach?
It's tough because again, GSP has got that. Although he lost, he has got that unbeatable aura, hasn't he? It's like I think if he was going to fight Habib, I think regardless of weight, I think you put him same weight. I think he beats Habib and things like that. So yeah, it'd be tough. I'd love to see it. I wouldn't even like to pick. I'd just like to watch it. Whoever wins, wins. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
He's
One for the fans.
He's
This
got
is it, that is it.
the perfect game plans, and GSP. Like he was a fantastic game planner, and I think that's one of the most important things. Obviously, once you get in there, you're scrapping at the end of the day.
It's fundamentals or something else, aren't they?
The problem with Silver is, as you said, with Sonnen was leathering him a couple of fights, and I think GSP would get him down, and I don't know whether he'd put him away, but he'd get a decision, wouldn't he? He'd just grind out a decision, GSP style.
He would for sure, definitely.
Speaking of celebrity fights, obviously we've had CM Punk come over. I'm just going to touch base on a few topics here. Obviously, we had CM Punk. Do you see the Paul brothers? One of them, at least one that I would like to see. I know this sounds utterly ridiculous, and everyone's probably going to turn off the podcast, but I would like to see Logan in the UFC against a CM Punk or someone of that nature, just as a spectacle. I know a lot of people are going to hate that, but Logan has a wrestling background. What do you guys make of this, of the Paul brothers and their what they're doing right now?
So he's 90. I've just Googled. He's 90 kilo, which is pretty fucking big. Like
Big boy.
So, depending who you put him against in an MMA setting, if it was someone, obviously when he fought Mayweather, he fought Mayweather with such a advantage and with like height, reach, everything, and you can get away with that in boxing, but I don't think you can get away with that in MMA. No. So you'd have to pick someone in that weight class. But then who do you pick who's that big in MMA? And there's a reason a lot of MMA fighters aren't that big, because it's not as, if you put him up against Cormier or something like that, he's getting flattened. You know what I mean? Doesn't stand a chance. They would do what they always do. They'd handpick someone who probably coming out of the prime, someone like trying to think of someone who like was in the early days of Anderson Silva, and that they'll probably pull someone out of retirement.
Do you think he'd fight at light heavyweight? Is it light heavyweight? You think he'd fight at cut, go down to that, or fight at that?
Light heavyweight's 205, isn't it? So he's below that 90 kg. He'd fight middleweight, I imagine.
Middleweight. Well, he was wrestling with Diego. Was it Costa? Yeah, he was fighting.
I'll tell you what,
Costa
is a fucking animal. Is an absolute animal, and Logan held his own. Like, obviously, it's not a fight, it's different. But in terms of wrestling, like you said earlier, like we said, if you're going to start an MMA career, what foundation would you pick?
That's it. Yeah.
You'd pick the wrestling background, wouldn't you? And Logan's definitely got it. I'd love to see him do it because
wasn't he some like wrestling champion though as well?
Yeah. He's a high level wrestler.
Let me Google it.
Not really high level.
He was a collegiate wrestler. I know that. I don't know whether he was Division 1 or not, but I'd love to see him in the UFC. Do you reckon they'll eventually do it, or because they're always doing stuff? The Paul brothers, they've generated this.
They're very smart. That's what it is. And I think the reason they chose boxing is because boxing is so much more high profile. Well, they got into the boxing because of KSI, didn't they? KSI started this whole thing, and that's how they did that.
I think if KSI fought him again,
they seen the money, didn't they? And then I don't think the money's there in MMA, which is why they wouldn't do it. You'd never fill a stadium the same way they do with boxing. You'd never get all the same sponsors, that kind of thing. Because sponsorship ultimately is what gets all these big events all the money. And the reason boxing has so many sponsors and stuff is because it's done it for years, where MMA sponsors are a bit hesitant of doing it, which is why you always see like cryptocurrencies sponsoring MMA. You always see Proper 12 sponsoring MMA, stuff like that. It's always really low-level sponsorships. So I don't think the money would ever be there, and I don't even think Logan Paul or Jake Paul would have that kind of appeal doing it where they would make millions. And with that in mind, they just wouldn't do it.
Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. Who?
Tommy Fury's last fight, he's not got a chance. Paul was so shit.
I'm going Jake Paul.
You're both backing Jake Paul.
No, wow. You say that. That's purely off the last fight. Tommy Fury's never really fought anyone half decent.
No.
But what Tommy Fury does have, which Jake Paul does not have, is he's got Tyson as a brother, for one. He'll get they will train him to make sure he does not lose. He will have the whip out. He'll be whipping him into shape regardless. He'll have every trainer. He'll ditch Ricky Hatton and co. and he'll go over to the States with Tyson.
Oh, I genuinely think Jake. I hate him. I think the guy's an idiot, but I admire the fact of
he's a tool.
his marketing.
He gets the bag.
That's it. He's incredibly.
Gets the bag.
I love him. I love people that do that. I love it. Like controversial and things like that. I think it's absolutely amazing. I think Jake Paul I think Jake Paul does it.
Well, what I will say is Jake is a lot better than I thought he was after watching the Tyron Woodley fight. I thought
he's good.
Yeah.
But he's been boxing now for about 3 years. You know what I mean?
3 or 4 years,
money,
yeah.
He's got enough resources to be able to go, well, I'm just going to box all the time now. I like doing this. It's fun. And he'll just
He makes millions. He makes millions doing this.
Stacks. And he just calls out random people on the internet and then loads of people talk about him and then he sells them all to the newspapers. He just breeds money from controversy and drama.
They're same level. They're same level, if you ask me. If you look at like Fury's record,
He's fought nobody, mate.
His lack of amateur experience and things like he's got his brothers and things, but arguably, like you said, Bran, like Jake Paul's got the better resources. To be fair, like he's definitely a lot richer. He's definitely in a better part of the world in terms of access to resources
and all that,
particularly with COVID. And I think, that last fight's anything to go by. I think Jake Paul absolutely flans him, and that's what worries me.
It was a poor performance, that last one on that card. Really bad. But then I've watched him in other cards, and a lot of the time, though, he looks good, but then it's such a quick fight because it's some random lad who's had 8 losses. So he gets in it, and by 30 seconds into round 1, he's on the fucking canvas.
Yeah.
And it's like, Tommy Fury wins again. It's not enough ring experience to be able to go around and say, he's had 10 fights, because he's not. He's had 10 fights against people that have never gone more than 1 round. His last fight was the first fight that went further than 1 round. If anything, he's got the exact same experience as Jake Paul. He's a celebrity who's taken on boxing. And I know the difference is he was a boxer first before he became a celebrity. But even then, he never really had a fight or anything like that. And he's Tyson's brother. That's all he is, really.
Yeah.
And a Love Island influencer.
Which is Britain, right? Only the UK really know him from Love Island. He's not massive outside of the UK. So, and Molly May, pretty much Molly May's mister.
That fight will do a lot for Tommy Fury as well, as in terms of pushing him in the States, and he'll become a big name in the States. Him and Molly May will probably move to America then. That's where all the money is for like influencers and stuff like that. It's all in Los Angeles. Molly May will go, she'll be like, let's go move to LA, and they'll both go to LA.
Absolutely.
They'll be influencers in LA instead of...
Absolutely.
They'll have a name because of the Jake Paul fight.
Well, did you see Jake Paul's bloody bet, though? Like, you're going to have to be called Tommy Fumbles if...
I think that's fucking gold, by the way. And I want him to lose just so he has to change his name.
Well, even Tyson and John Fury were both saying if he loses, he's changing his name regardless.
But I do think with, like you just said, with Tyson, with Tyson's dad, the entire family, even the cousin as well. What is it?
Huey.
Huey. Like, you've got all of this network around you of people who live and breathe boxing.
Yeah.
They know that someone at some point has to stop these lads just running amok in the boxing world. And he probably is the best person to do it. Because let's face it, Jake Paul's not going to get in with Tyson. He's not going to get in with anyone half decent. No. And Jake Paul knows that Tommy is probably a very good step for him as well. Because then he can say, look, I'm not fighting just deadbeats. I'm not just... I've actually fought someone who's an active boxer. So for him, it's a good decision. For Tommy, it's a good decision. It's the perfect fight for both of them. And it will make stupid money as well, which it ultimately comes down to.
That's it. That's what everybody's here for.
Get in the bag.
Well, to be fair, I've just checked the clock. We're going to start winding down. Before we do go, though, Bran, I just want to find out what you've got going on in your life right now. Obviously, predominantly, you are a content creator. So everybody, please make sure you go over. The links are in the description if you're on YouTube. But it's Bran Pickle.
Bran Pickle everywhere.
YouTube, Twitch, all of the content's on there. What have you got going on at the minute, Bran? Any games you're looking forward to? Anything you got planned?
I'm I'm at a bit of a weird stage in the content creation, as a lot of content creators are right now. We're in the low point of the gaming world, the summer, just before the Christmas spell when all the brand new games come out.
Yep.
Personally, the one game that I'm looking forward to quite a lot, which is completely off from the entire discussion we've had, is the brand new Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends of Arceus, it's called. And I'm very much at that. Out of all the first-person shooters, everything that's coming out, I'd rather just have that game, and I'll get stuck into that, me.
I've just bought a Switch myself for that, mate.
Oh, class.
That's what I've done with that OLED.
But yeah, content creation right now. I'm doing a bit more IRL style content, like really random stuff. Just trying to find my current grounds where it is at. Doing a lot less Twitch streaming and more typical content creation. Purely time reason. I've just taken on a new job as a restaurant manager, so I don't have as much time as I used to.
It's a hard graft, and content creating.
As I said at the start, I am getting a new job hopefully in the upcoming weeks. I've got a meeting this week, which will be Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, and then once that call kicks off, I'll be full steam ahead on the content again.
Awesome. Make sure everyone goes and checks it out. I'm looking forward to keeping up with your content, man. And to be fair, more importantly, I'm looking forward to seeing you go pro. I want to see Bran Pickle fighting Jake Paul.
Same here. I want to see
I would fight Jake Paul, no problem. Yeah. If you want to put Muay Thai gloves on, you know what? To be fair, that would be quite a good natural step for them, because you start putting elbows and knees and stuff in like that, and it makes it very exciting. I'll sit there and say Muay Thai is one of the most underrated sports on the planet, purely because if you watch some of the best Muay Thai fights, there's a fucking lot of them. So many Muay Thai fights just end in absolute bloodbaths, lads elbowing the shit out of each other. It's the birthplace of the spinning elbow. How often you see a spinning elbow KO in the UFC? Once a blue moon. You see him every other week in Muay Thai. Spinning heel kicks, all that kind of stuff, all originated from Muay Thai. I
want to see you out there tweeting him, Bran. Me and you, Muay Thai fight.
If you need a promoter, hit me up.
No problem. Get me that bag.
I'll get you that for. Don't you worry.
We'll get one of them YouTube belts again, like when KSI had that fight.
Yes.
We'll get a YouTube Muay Thai belt.
That's it.
No, awesome, man. It's been a good laugh, Bran. I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming.
We'll have to absolutely get you back on again in the new year once things have changed, and we'll go from there. But that wraps up today's episode. Thanks for watching, everyone that did and listening. Have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peace out.
Peace.